Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a crime/thriller from Australia, English language, released in the year 2022, directed by Matthew Holmes, and this film is called The Cost. So The Cost is about a woman that has been brutally murdered. She was sexually assaulted, and the person that was in question got away with it. And so this woman's husband and the woman's brother have come up with a plan to kidnap this suspect and torture him, get a confession out of him, and then murder him. And so the plan is set in place, but then unfortunately nothing is that easy, and complications arise as they start to second guess what they're doing. So what happens at that point on is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Cost. I had little to no expectations with this movie. You guys are aware of how critical I am of the Australian film industry. The movies are definitely few and far between that are worth watching, and so when I saw The Cost on DVD I thought, alright, well, it's very cheap, I'm not really risking much by watching it, but I had no hope that this is going to be any good. This is a film that has gone under the radar, and under the radar, especially in Australia, is definitely a red flag. And so with little to no hope that this movie was going to be any good, I come away from The Cost actually surprised that this is a very serviceable thriller, and it's a movie that really made me think. So this is a revenge type of film, but where this movie separates itself from the usual revenge film is that it's very realistic. This is a movie about the toll of actually inflicting pain upon someone. Even though mentally you're in a lot of torment, you want revenge, it's a lot easier to say to yourself you're going to kill someone than actually doing it. And this movie really looks at that. And that was something that I really liked. And so this is a film that is definitely more of a drama than a thriller, because it's the inside of a psychological sort of warfare between all three characters in this movie. You have the man that was the suspect of killing this woman, you have the woman's brother, and also the woman's husband. And then as they go through at the start of the film, they're hell-bent on inflicting as much pain on this man, but as the situation starts to spiral, there's complications come into it. So the complexity of the movie makes you think. So you see cathartic violence where the bad guy is getting what they deserve, and you think to yourself, alright, this is therapeutic violence, but then in reality that's not the case. Violence is a very destructive thing, and so the destructive nature of violence that was used in this movie I thought was very, very intelligent, because this is what separates it from the usual revenge film. So this is a film that's been compared to Deliverance and Wolf Creek. Now that is very misleading. It's got nothing to do with those two movies, so I'm not sure what the person who reviewed that and quoted that was actually watching, because it's definitely a movie that has nothing to do with those two types of films, so be very careful with that. But if you want an Australian movie that actually dares to be different, then The Cost is definitely for you. This is a very realistic film. As I said, the realistic violence is similar to Wolf Creek, I guess you could say. It's not glorified, which is the case with a lot of Australian extremity. That's what I like about the Australian extreme scene, that they don't use violence in a cathartic way, they use violence as a destructive sort of force. And the destructive nature of violence in this movie I thought was shaping the characters in a way that was very three-dimensional. I really sympathised for the brother and the brother-in-law at the start of the film, but then I started to sympathise for the guy that was having the pain inflicted upon him. So initially I hated the guy that was the suspect, but this is the devastating force of violence. It actually makes you change your allegiances. And then you start to feel bad for the guy that you feel bad for feeling bad for. And so that's what I really liked about the movie. It used violence in the very realistic sense that it's not the answer, that it can actually change you as a human being, and it can change you for all the wrong reasons. And so that was something that was very thought-provoking, and it's definitely something that I would recommend to you all. It's a very minimalistic film, so the emphasis was on the acting performances. I thought the performances were great. The overall setting inside the bush, it was in the middle of nowhere, so escape was definitely very limited, and so that really nailed it down as far as, suspension of disbelief. There's a very limited suspension of disbelief in this film, which is something I really like. And I thought as though there were some very suspenseful moments. So I'm not going to give anything away, but there is a bit of suspense thrown in there, and I never felt as though the movie was stagnant. The movie always had that fluent continuity, and that's something that I liked as well. So if I have problems with the movie, as I said, it is very minimalistic. It's almost like a stage play, which is something that I am critical of Australian cinema, but it's a very low budget movie. And so it understands its limitations, and it uses those limitations in that thought-provoking way that's going to get a discussion out there, and it shows violence for what it really is. It's ugly, it's not therapeutic, it's not going to make you feel good. vengeance is a lot easier on paper than it is actually putting it into action. And so that's what the film is trying to do, and I thought the end of the movie was very, very hard-hitting. It's a very depressing and downbeat film. The acting performances were great. The dialogue was fantastic. So not only emphasis on the acting performances, but emphasis on the dialogue, which I thought really complemented the acting performances. And so the characters are very larger than life. They're very thought-provoking, and there's a lot of sympathy thrown in there for everybody, and it showcases that violence is the true destructive nature and violence is the true villain in this movie. So it's very, very impressive. I'm going to recommend it. Thankfully, this is one of the rare occasions where I've actually enjoyed an Australian film. Well, not so much enjoyed it, but appreciate it for what it was, and showcasing violence for the very uncomfortable nature that it is. And it does play a very driving force that's going to get a lot of people out there thinking and talking. So overall, I'm going to give the cost 4 stars. I thought it was very good. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.